Hey guys, it's Nigel here, and today I'm going to be talking about the Tomb Raider video game, which I beat last night. And of course, when I say I beat a game, not 100%, but like beat the story of it. And this one is about the 2013 Tomb Raider, the reboot, not the original Tomb Raider. But yeah, so we're gonna be talking about that right here, what I like, didn't like about the game. Now, of course, as always, I'm not a professional video game reviewer, just a man who enjoys a good time, and I definitely had a good time. I'm playing this game. Now, I'll admit it. I'm not too familiar with Tomb Raider lore. I know who, of course, the Tomb Raider is Lara Croft, and I do know who she's a treasure hunter. But other than that, I unfortunately didn't grow up playing the original Tomb Raider games. I do actually have the PS1 Tomb Raider game, the original, on my PS3. I bought it a while back, never got around to actually playing it and beating it, but I may do that at some point. But playing this game, I feel like you don't necessarily need to be a Tomb Raider fan to enjoy the game, but I still enjoyed the game. So, of course, we're gonna get into the pros and cons and everything, and to be honest, there was like a couple things I did recognize, at least from the original Tomb Raider. Like I said, not too familiar with the original Tomb Raider, but even a couple stuff I was able to pick up on. So, what I liked about the game, even the story felt pretty good. So basically, Lara Croft and her friends, and who are a team of explorers, just go into the islands and to do some research, but ended up getting stranded there. They pretty much run into a cult who try to escape the island as well by appeasing the sun god Himiko. Oh, and we see, of course, this cult led by the main villain Matthias. We see them combat Laura and her friends throughout. Unfortunately, some of Laura's friends die, and Matthias's ultimate goal is to bring back Himiko through Laura's friend Sam by pretty much turning Sam into a vessel for Himiko, the Sun Queen, in order to appease her and have them leave the island. And Laura finds this out because Matthias does try taking her on multiple occasions. In fact, he does take her on multiple occasions, and but Laura, of course, fights out the forces, ends up pretty much destroying Himiko, or at least a statue of her which contains her soul, releasing it and calming the storms and allowing them to leave. Now, there were multiple points where Laura and her friends did try to leave, but the storms ended up striking them. For example, there was a helicopter that came to try and stop and try to not stop, but try to like save Laura and her friends. Laura sent an SOS, and the helicopter was inbound. The storms like destroyed the helicopter and basically wouldn't let Laura leave, even until Laura ended up pretty much defeating Himiko and freeing her friends and being able to leave. But Laura decides, you know what, I'm gonna continue the treasure hunting and everything. But story's pretty good. We see Laura pretty much being like a survivor, or she does have, of course, her heroic tendencies, but he's more of a survivor, which is pretty cool. Well, to see, you get a decent range of weapons, which is really nice. You get a pistol. You don't get the dual pistols, although there is a moment where she does use the dual pistols to kill Matthias. But you get a pistol, you get a shotgun, you get a rifle, which comes with a grenade launcher attachment that you find later in the game. And of course, the weapon that Laura is pictured using the most, and a weapon you probably will end up using quite a bit, is the bow and arrow, which is a pretty good weapon, all things considered. There's a lot of protagonists that I think about it who used like bow and arrow kind of around that time. But I guess that was just the thing back then, is bow and arrow. But Weapons were pretty good, and even if you run out of ammo for one, you gotta find ammo for another, and there's lots of ammo strewn throughout the levels, and you're gonna find some either finding them out and about or finding them after looting the enemies you kill and everything. And Laura has camps that she can rest at. You can upgrade your skills. You can upgrade your different weapons so that they can do other stuff. So a lot of cool stuff to be able to do in the game. And this was made by Eidos Montreal. All the people responsible for not just the Deus Ex games. Now, Eidos Montreal is a division and a subdivision within Square Enix, but they're behind the Deus Ex games and the Guardians of the Galaxy game that I just reviewed a few weeks ago. If you haven't already, check that out on my YouTube channel. But surprisingly, no dialogue trees, no like choice-based stuff. The story's pretty linear, which isn't a bad thing. I think it works in this case, and we see Laura being all kinds of cool while still having a linear story. And I do like how in the game she's not like Superman. She goes through some stuff. He has to go through quite a bit. There are some scenes that are pretty graphic that may make you a bit uncomfortable, but Laura goes through a lot but comes out the survivor and really grows. And I feel like this is a great way to start off a new type of Tomb Raider. This is a different Lara Croft, a different Tomb Raider than what we've seen before. And the other thing I've learned from actually one of my friends who played this game is that the original, and he played the original as well, apparently had some supernatural elements. So if that is the case, then it's good to see that they carried that over into the new game as well. And what I like is this game tries to be its own thing, tell its own story, but ultimately he does pay some homages to the original Tomb Raider. But I can also tell this game did borrow some inspiration from Uncharted, which is kind of ironic because I did review the Uncharted movie also on my YouTube channel, so go check that out. But also Uncharted, many people said, was probably inspired by the original Tomb Raider. So to see them inspired that and then inspired this new Tomb Raider is pretty cool. And I like how it does have some elements where you would probably find in Uncharted, but it's still its own thing. Lara Croft doesn't come off to be like too much like Nathan Drake, which is pretty cool. But of course there are some things I didn't really like about the game, but trust me, in this case the pros far outweigh the cons. But there were a couple cons. For starters, I didn't like how some of the enemies were kind of bullet spongy. Now, in video games, when you shoot enemies, they don't always die right away, but for some of these enemies, they took like 10 bullets and were still up and about. And some of them were armored in the game, and you did have some armored enemies and you had some shielded enemies, but some of them, others, were just like regular enemies without any armor or anything, which was really weird. I'm like, Jesus, why does it take so many bullets to take the guys out? And I can't lie, this is also something that pops up in Deus Ex. Those games, some of those enemies are bullet sponges, but those enemies are armored as well. But a lot of these enemies that you're fighting, which the main enemies you'll be fighting are either like animals out in the wild, mainly wolves out in the jungles that Laura's exploring. Then there's the cult members. And then there's the Storm Guard, who are still protecting Himiko, who are still alive because Himiko's spirit still rages through the islands and everything. But yeah, some of them were bullet spongy, and it was kind of annoying, I can't lie. But thankfully, with the other weapons you had, even when you ran out of one, you were able to manage pretty well. And they did have a system where you could do like stealth kills, and you could do stealth kills with a bow and arrow as well if you took them out with a headshot and none of the other enemies noticed. So that was a good way to compensate. But yeah, bullet sponge enemies always a pet peeve of mine. The other thing was that there wasn't really melee in this game. Laura didn't really have a melee attack, which again makes sense because Laura is supposed to be, you're supposed to rely more on like the weapons and stuff with the range, and oftentimes because the enemies will be shooting back at you, who it's like, well, why do you need a melee? But when some enemies got close to you, if you didn't have a weapon, sometimes you would get taken out, at least in my case. Maybe it's just a case of me sucking at the game, who knows, but, so no melee attack, which didn't really bother me too much. And, bullet spongy enemies, not really that great either. But the other thing that, was, I guess, kind of a con, but still also made the surprise was there wasn't really a final boss. There was there was an ending quick time event, and where you mashed L2 and R2, which for Xbox would be the shoulder buttons, but I of course played on PlayStation. So you mashed L2 and R2 with the dual pistols that you found to take down Matthias, but there wasn't really a dedicated final boss. The closest thing I can think of to a final boss was like the really big storm guard, like pretty much a monster that you fought right before you got to where Matthias and Sam and Himiko were, or so. That's pretty much what we got as like a final boss, which yeah, I get. Yes, but because sometimes final bosses can be kind of lame, but the final boss feels like it's supposed to feel like a big battle, like the big final battle. You take out the big bad guy and save the day, but here we didn't really get that. Like I said, the closest we had was the big storm guard enemy, which at first I was disappointed because I was like, oh, we don't get to fight him because he was in an earlier cutscene, and he like got blown off by the hard storms. He got blown off the one platform when Laura was on it, but um, we do end up fighting him, which is pretty cool. Well, but like I said, pros definitely outweigh the cons. There's a lot of exploration. There's a lot of stuff to find, which unfortunately I didn't find everything. And there are some tombs to raid. You only by story progression, you only really raid one tomb, but there are other tombs that you could raid, and I ended up raiding 2 of them. But yeah, so overall, pretty good game. Did really like it. I actually really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to play the other 2 games in the trilogy, which is Rise of the Tomb Raider and then Shadow of the Tomb Raider. When will I play those? Probably sometime in the near future. But without further ado, thank you all so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts on the game. And tomorrow, of course, I've got another episode of System Shock Radio for episode 55, and I haven't announced what that's going to be yet. More details will be coming later on today, both on my Facebook page if you have me on there, or on my Instagram. I am at the Nigelverse, so go check those out. And I am going to be posting more of like the stuff for my YouTube channel and System Shock Radio and stuff like that on both my Twitter and my Snapchat. So, if you haven't already, make sure to follow those at Twitter. It's just my name at Nigel Dixie. So go follow me on there. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys later. Peace.